happening, guys? You know how sometimes it's more valuable to know what doesn't work than what might work? Well, that's what this video is about. I've been in and around shops for years. I've worked at shops. I've been the guy that has tuned the vehicle, that has data logged the vehicle, both before and after modifications. And I can tell you, I've seen some stuff. And what I wanted to do is share with you some of this information. Basically, don't be that guy. And now listen, I know that all of us are on a budget. Money is tight, but this is not a time to be trying to save money. Buy quality parts and the outcome, the performance, the reliability will be there. It will follow the money that you spend. Try to cheat that system and, well, the peril is all yours. And don't believe what the internet says, because I promise you, it's not telling you the whole truth about the final performance of those cheap parts. What am I going on about? Well, let's talk about some of this. And again, don't be this guy. Right off the bat, cheap long tube headers. Look, if you're buying a set of cheap long tube headers and you've got a fuel injected car, you're already up against it. If that collector where all those tubes come together, if that collector leaks, it's going to saturate the oxygen sensor with outside air. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, the computer uses the oxygen sensors to determine what the air-fuel ratio is. If air is getting into the system somehow and it's not accounted for, it's going to throw that off completely, and there is no tuning around that. I've actually had to fail initial data logs, which means I couldn't tune the car. I had to send the guy away or tell him, look, you're going to have to put quality components on this vehicle. You got ripped off, basically. Now, that isn't usually met with, let's just say the guys aren't too happy when they hear that, but it's just the reality of the situation. In many cases, there's no making it work either. You can't just slather something with high temp silicone and hope that it sticks around forever. Invariably, that doesn't work. So guys, buy a quality set of long tubes if that's what you're going for your build, and worry about saving money in other areas. Which brings me to my next point, cold air intakes. See, here's the problem with cold air intakes. Some of them work, and I'll admit that a lot of them are well engineered, those that aren't just a tube with a filter on the end of it. And that's really what I'm talking about, the cheap cold air intakes. They're really just hot air intakes, regardless of what you see on the internet with XYZ's product making so much more power on the dyno. Yeah, the dyno is not the environment that you drive your car around in. Your hood open with big fans blowing directly onto an air filter. Yeah, that is a best case scenario for that component. The reality is, with the hood shut and the car sitting there idling, everything gets hot. You're soaking in all that hot air from underneath the hood. Now, many of these kits, well, they do cool off once you get the vehicle moving, but you still got to get the thing moving. And I've seen data logs with vehicles with NOx sensors. You go to map the throttle with one of those kits and it freaks the NOx sensors out because it's got such hot air coming into it. So it's not so much the going down the road temperature of that intake air temperature, it's what it does from launch, so to speak. If you're a drag racer, probably not the best place to be. You need a product that is going to get you cold air from a dead stop. So keep that in mind when you think you're getting away with something for some cheap component. You're actually not. Next thing, and this is going to be a little bit controversial for some of you guys, but catch cans. Guys, just don't do it. Unless you have a race car, you don't need a catch can. Guys, I've done so much testing on this that it would bore you to tears with some of the data that I've had to collect for this. Catch cans are really more of a red herring than anything else. A lot of what a catch can catches is actually condensation. It's not oil vapors or anything else like that. I mean, think about it. If you could fill a bottle with oil, means you're evacuating your crankcase of its oil. It doesn't work like that. Not to mention the nucleation site in that catch can, which is to say the place where it catches the oil, where the vapor comes out of suspension in that Brillo pad type material, that steel wool. that is not an infinite able to filter media. It doesn't work like that. I get so worked up because there is so much that gets past that anyway and gets in the intake manifold, and I know this because I'm the guy that was porting the intake manifolds. A lot of them, and whether they had a catch can, no catch can, or whatever, they're all misted on the inside with PCV funk. That's just what that stuff is. So just from that standpoint, they don't really offer up any real performance gain, and they don't help anybody out. If you're going to be porting the thing, forget about it. It's still going to have that residue in there. But here's the other nasty side of catch cans. You have to empty them. Guys, think about it. If you fill up something like this up to a certain point, you will, and it's in a air stream, and in this case, a vacuum stream, at some point you're going to start siphoning the fluid out of the bottle itself. You're actually going to make the situation that you're trying to mitigate so much worse. I have seen this before where you open up a catch can, it is absolutely full of this black, watery, it's all condensation and oil funk, and it's literally siphoning the stuff out of the can. And you have to remind these people, anyway, you can see where this is going. It's not worth it. Guys, I have worked on vehicles that were insanely fast. We're talking NA combinations that never had a catch can and ran for 130, 150,000 miles before they were just sold on. They are not necessary. Again, if you have a street car and you have a street functioning PCV system, it's not really going to help you out too much. Next, we talked about exhaust previously. Now, this is really more of a like a public service announcement. Guys, do not straight pipe your car. It's not that it's a bad thing for performance. It just doesn't help anything, but it sounds terrible when you don't do it right. Guys will have an X pipe and they'll straight pipe their vehicle, and it is the most shrill, awful sounding thing ever. You're not impressing anybody with this noise, but you bring that garbage into a shop that has to deal with it and work on it. Guys, I'm telling you just want to get as far away from that crap as fast as possible. So you might think that it sounds good, but it doesn't. And if you're gonna straight pipe anything, at the very least, cut out the X pipe and run an H pipe. It'll at least sound somewhat passable. It'll be better than that real shrill sounding X pipe, and you'll pick up a little bit of torque down low, at least in my experience running the H pipe, and usually you'll pick up a little bit up top too. But my goodness, please, whatever you do, don't straight pipe your garbage. It sounds terrible, especially with an X pipe. Chicks don't dig it, right? I mean, you never heard anybody go, some chick go, oh my God, he's got straight pipes. That just turns me on. I mean, you're attracting the wrong element. It's other dudes, and it's like a mating call. Not the kind you want to put out there. Anyway, getting back to it. Last but not least, and this is probably my biggest pet peeve out of all of them, is guys running subpar fuel in their vehicles. I cannot tell you how infuriating it can be when somebody says, well, my car's not running well, and you're trying to science it out, and you've got like just, pluses and minuses and divide signs and all this other stuff going through your head, and then you stop because you're thinking, I know this combination, I know that it runs well, I know that, wait a minute, what gas are you running? Well, I'm running 87 octane. It's like your jaw bounces right off your desk. Guys, there is no performance vehicle that I can think of that from the factory is optimized for 87 octane. There are vehicles that will run on 87 octane if you absolutely have to. In other words, you have to get gas somewhere. You pump gas into this thing. It's 87 octane, and all you're doing is just trying to get home. In that case, yes, by all means, put 87 octane in the tank, but it is not there as your daily gas. 93 octane is not your race fuel either. All performance vehicles today are optimized for premium fuel. Just read the owner's manual. They all will tell you the same thing. If it can run on 87, great, but most of them will tell you, yeah, premium unleaded only, or for optimal performance, use premium unleaded. You cannot complain that your car is not performing optimally if you don't use the right kind of fuel. In this case, for the most part, it's premium. Now, there are some vehicles that can run on E85. I don't even want to get in the weeds on that, but for you guys that are out there running around in the Camaros, the Mustangs, the Challengers, just put 93 in the tank and let it eat, okay? And just consider it as part of the cost of ownership for a performance vehicle. If you try to get away with 87 octane and your buddy walks away from you, that's on you. And guys go, well, that doesn't make any sense. Guys, look, the computer systems, the engines today are so advanced that in some cases, like in the Fords, they'll just keep adding timing until they run out of octane. They're looking for knock. That computer system is actually trying to find a fault, and then it'll back timing off just a little bit for absolutely perfect optimal performance. Other systems will have a preset amount of timing in them, and if they see knock, they will just pull that timing back. They don't go looking for it like a Ford where it'll try to add all the timing in the world, but they are looking for knock, and when they see it, they pull it. Well, happens to wreck the hot air intake crowd. Well, it also will be even worse if you're running poor gasoline. Again, I don't want to bore you with all the details. There's reasons why your car can run on it, but not at wide open throttle and not when you're really trying to have fun with it. That's the whole reason why you have the thing to begin with, right? So anyway, I'm rambling on here, guys. Look, so cheap long tubes, don't do it. Cold air intake, forget about it. Catch can, just let it slide. You're never going to get there. Straight pipe, absolutely annoying, and don't run crappy gas. If you get nothing out of this video, just know that at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to get the best quality into your vehicle as you possibly can. Don't let somebody try to talk you into cheap parts that they've got for sale out of the back of their truck. Buy new. That's another thing. For the guys that are really trying to save money, buying used can be a good option, but make sure you're buying quality used parts and don't buy from anybody that you can't validate the build from. In other words, just somebody off the street or off a marketplace, don't buy that used thing. But if you have a shop that says, hey, I've got some clean used parts, consider it. It's a good way to get high performance, high quality products at a steal when somebody is moving on or moving up with their build. So hopefully I have not bored you to tears with this. Post up your comments, let me know what you think, and we'll catch you on the next one. That's a wrap.